Greetings from the second age of reason. This afternoon, we are here to discuss opinions. I have been reading a lot of things in the newspapers. And the newspapers online have interesting things called comment sections. So you can see what the various readers think about the articles that are posted. And so, we're getting into the aspect of reader comments. Now, I've noticed there's two basic families of reader comments. One is basically it's a free-for-all. The reader registers, gives himself a mystery ID, and he then posts his comments. Those are probably a little more flaky. They'll say all kinds of vitriol and silly things, and then there's the kind that are tied to the actual thing, like Facebook or Google or some other kind of Twitter account or something. And those are tied to actual users, human beings. They have, I've noticed that they tend to be more reserved and more conservative. And so, I don't know. My question is, do you think that people should have the anonymous sort of mystery posting name, which allows them to speak their minds freely, although sometimes with vitriol and weird concepts and trying to fluster people? Or should they be tied to a real user account so that the person can actually be seen and traced and talked to? So that's the question. And just for an example, I'm going to read from some of these unrestricted kind of comments, because I think, in a way, they're more interesting because people are speaking freely their minds, even if their minds are a little twisted. So, here's some reader comments from an article about healthcare and how healthcare is changing these days. And they make a comment about, somebody mentioning that maybe we should have single-payer health care, or maybe we should have insurance health care, or maybe they should cut the health care for people on welfare, and they have different kinds of conditions. And so the reader comments were interesting on that. I put mine out there as well, but I happen to notice two particular ones. They are not my comments, but I thought they are very interesting and indicative of the sort of thing that are in the unrestricted kind of reader comments. So, and it's kind of like the old conservative versus liberal type of thing. So, somebody who calls himself conservative said, and here's his remark, it's a short paragraph. Once there was a cow. It gave milk and fed many. When the pasture the cow ate on produced less grass because we had a dry summer, the cow gave less milk. The conservative said, tighten your belt, use less milk, and we will all survive until next year when the rains come again. The liberals jumped up with a mighty idea. Let's kill the cow and eat the meat so we can have plenty right now. So they killed the cow and ate the meat. And the liberals rejoiced, as their bellies were full as before. But when the meat ran out, there was no more milk from the cow, and everybody perished. Oh. So that was the conservative little story. Now, of course, there's got to be a liberal rebuttal, and it's kind of interesting, too. So let's hear the liberal side of this. You have two cows. Wow, they have more than one. They were thinking. You outsource the milking to increase profits. You set up an offshore shell corporation on a Caribbean island to avoid paying all of the taxes. Then, you manipulate the futures markets to vastly increase the price of milk. Then, you put your milk on the international market. Then, you start a fake political party to escape all criticism and responsibility for rampant unemployment and a milk shortage at home. Then, you obfuscate the truth of your manipulation and treachery with your party's battle cry, "Milk, baby, milk." Wonder if there's another thing implied here. The production increases at your overseas slave labor milking operations, but all the milk is still sold on international markets. You get your paid Congress critter to cut food safety regulations. You get the Supreme Court to outlaw class action lawsuits, so when milk contamination kills hundreds of people, each survivor must sue independently. You tie them all up in the courts for decades. The milk market collapses, so you get bailed out by the taxpayers whose jobs you outsourced. You get billions of dollars in government subsidies from politicians you bought with your profits. And you tell the unemployed, starving workers on your now depression-ravaged country that it's their fault and that they'd better get a job. Because, well, it's the new normal and they just better get used to it. It's all okay because you still keep all the profits, pay no taxes, continue to manipulate the markets, and get government subsidies, and you're convinced that the American capitalism is the best economic system ever. You try to convince everyone else of this obvious fact, or else you'll accuse them of being un-American. That's kind of interesting. So, I just thought that's the way sometimes it goes when you see these things going back and forth with rebuttal. Sometimes you hear them talking about union thugs or about the capitalists, ransacking the economy or whatever. But it's interesting. Sometimes you read the article and the comments are more interesting than the article itself. So I just thought I'd mention that. And my question is, does anybody have any preference for the unfettered anonymous articles, rebuttals, or comments, or do they like the ones that are tied to a Facebook or Twitter account with a real person on the other end? So this is my question for now, and until then, we'll be seeing ya.